What's going on, everyone? In this video, we will be discussing how to find your optimal sensitivity in Fortnite. We will talk about your DPI, in-game sense, and a little something called the PSA method. Before we get into this, I just want to take a quick second and say thank you to everyone dropping the likes and dropping the subscriptions. I've been grinding and trying to get this channel to get off the ground, and all that wouldn't be possible without each and every one of you, so thank you. Alright, let's talk about your DPI. DPI stands for dots per inch and is how fast your cursor moves in general on your monitor. The lower your DPI, the slower your cursor will be. The higher your DPI, the faster your cursor will be. The two most popular DPIs is 400 and 800. I don't recommend going above 1600 if you decide that 800 is too slow. Where you will notice your DPI most is when swapping things around in your inventory within Fortnite. What I recommend is messing around by swapping things in your inventory to see what you like as far as DPI. You can also just browse the internet and do general things while on your computer in order to see how accurate you are just clicking around. Once you find a DPI that you are comfortable with, you can move on to game sense. Just remember that it doesn't really matter what your DPI is because you will change your in-game sense to offset it to something you feel really comfortable with. Personally, I use 800 DPI. Most mice, when you first plug them in, are set at 800 by default, so I didn't feel much of a need to change that around. Alright, let's talk about high versus low in-game sense. Now let's get one thing out of the way in the high versus low sense debate. You can be very good on either. Neither is insanely better than the other. It really is just all personal preference. Some people tend to like lower sense and some people tend to like higher. Where there are some objective facts is that higher sense while in Fortnite will help your building and your ability to react quickly, but lower sense will help you be more precise, such as with your aiming. When choosing your in-game sense, there are a few factors to consider. First, you want to consider your DPI. The lower your DPI, the higher your in-game sense will have to be. The exact opposite is for a higher DPI, meaning that you have to lower your in-game sense. Next, consider your mouse pad and how much space you have in general for your mouse. You want to get the biggest mouse pad you can for the space that you have available. This will allow you to make much more movement with your arm and generally make it easier to aim and react quickly. A general rule of thumb is that the larger the mouse pad, the lower your sensitivity can be due to you being able to move around more. The smaller your mouse pad, the higher your sensitivity will need to be so that you can move quickly without having to move your mouse a huge distance. Finally, you need to consider if you can even control higher sensitivities. Everyone can eventually get used to higher sensitivities, but right off the bat, I don't recommend it. You should start lower and work your way up if you want to. If at any point your screen is really shaky while you're doing normal tasks during the game, your sensitivity is too damn high. Fortnite doesn't afford a different sense for your aim and building, so you need to find a middle ground where you can build easily but still hit your shots and vice versa. If you can hit your shots but you build extremely slow and can't turn around quick enough to react, your game sense is too damn low. Luckily, there is a way to find an optimal sensitivity for your game that doesn't require a bunch of computing and a headache on your end. It's called the PSA method. The PSA method is essentially a way for you to figure out your optimal sensitivity using a computer algorithm. You first start off by going into creative and swiping your mouse from one side of your mouse pad to the other. The point of doing this is to make a complete 360 degrees, no more, no less. If you overshoot it, lower your sense. If you undershoot it, higher your sense. Continue this process until you find the perfect sensitivity where you can make a perfect 360 degree circle in-game by swiping your mouse from one side of your mouse pad to the other. Next, go to the link down in the description. This link takes you to a PSA sense calculator. From there, input the value that you are able to do a perfect 360 on. From there, two values will appear, one lower, one higher. What you want to do is first try the base value that it gives you by shooting at targets, building, and editing. Then based on that value, if it feels too fast or too slow, either try out the lower value or the higher value and shoot, build, and edit to see which one you prefer. Then go back onto the site and select which one you like more. It will then give you a new base value to try. Use the base value, and if you don't like it, change it to the higher or lower value, mess around with it, and then go back and tell the algorithm which one you prefer, higher or lower. Continue this process until you find a value that you are most comfortable with. After about 5 times, the algorithm will zone in on a specific value, and 9 out of 10 times it will be a value that you are most comfortable with, as long as you are being truthful and not trying to trick the algorithm. Unfortunately, I don't think the algorithm will work with your ADS sensitivity, but you can essentially do the same thing by picking a value and deciding if it is too fast or too slow and adjusting it from there until you find something that you like. There are some players that like their sensitivities for the X and Y to be different. I personally like keeping them the same, but it is all preference, and you will have to do a little trial and error to see which one you prefer. One final tip, use your newfound sensitivity for a couple of weeks at least to see if you enjoy it. Switching your sensitivity constantly is the worst thing you can do because you don't give yourself any time to adjust and get used to the sensitivity that you now have. Give it a couple weeks, and if you don't feel right, repeat this process with the PSA method. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to help me out, leave a comment with a topic in Fortnite that you'd like me to cover. And don't forget to like and subscribe with notifications on. Have a great day.